Alright, so actually in the same spot, but we rearranged the room a bit, so I was over there before facing that way. Now we facing this way. Before I go any further on this prediction video, I gotta give a shout out to my man Tupac. It's Tupac's birthday today, so happy 51st birthday to Tupac, which sounds fucking crazy for me to even say, but if he was still here, he'd be 51 years old today. Tupac was one of my idols growing up, one of my favorite human beings of all time, so happy birthday to Pac. Anyway, moving on to Joe Smith Jr. versus Beterbiev. Now, I really wasn't even going to make a prediction video on this. My apologies for being a little bit late. It's Thursday, the fight is Saturday, so I like to make these a little bit earlier. In general, I like to make these prediction videos before I see too much on the fight because I would rather just get the video out there, let everybody see what they're going to see, watch what they're going to watch if you're going to watch some prediction videos, if you're going to watch the all accesses or I believe it was called Blood, Sweat, and Tears for this fight. There's shit out there for you to watch. I'm sure not too many people are searching on the weekend for prediction videos for the fight that's that day or that weekend or whatever the case is. So I'm going to try to get these out on like Sunday or Monday, the week before the fight from now on. But been busy, and like I said, I really didn't even intend on making this one, but my boy Bocce was talking to me about it, and when I started discussing it with him, I was like, you know what? I think I have enough to say that I can make a video on this, so it's not going to be a long one. The main reason it's not going to be a long one is because I'm going to be real with you. I have never seen Beterbiev fight. I've seen plenty of his highlights. I actually know Marcus Brown and Junior Union personally, so when him and Marcus Brown were fighting, I was super interested in that fight, but I believe I was out somewhere that night and I couldn't watch it. So again, I've seen the highlights, I've seen what happened. I will watch that full fight one day. Shout outs to Marcus Brown. He didn't get the win in the fight, but that was an ugly, bloody fight. So shout outs to Marcus for the water he was in. But Beterbiev, man. I mean, from what I've seen of this dude, bro, he looks like a fucking killer. Now, Joe Smith, I've seen fight plenty. I've been watching Joe Smith since before he knocked Bernard Hopkins out of the ring. So I've definitely seen plenty of Joe Smith. I like Joe Smith. I think Joe Smith is... I'm not trying to knock Joe Smith or shit on Joe Smith at all, but I think Joe Smith is limited to a certain extent. I think Joe Smith has more heart, more bravery, more courage, more brawn, more strength than he has actual boxing skills. It's not to say he doesn't have any boxing skills. I mean, the guy's... light heavyweight champion of the world and shit, so I'm not trying to knock Joe Smith Jr. I'm just trying to make a point that I think Joe Smith Jr. got to where he's at more so from, physical strength, his heart, his durability, his mental and physical toughness, and his work ethic, as opposed to getting where he's at on, some type of pure, unbelievable talent that he was blessed with or born with or whatever like that. So... that being said, both of these guys are big punchers. So my theory with this fight is this. And before I get into too much of it, I will tell you this. I'm picking Beterbiev to win the fight. I think Beterbiev will stop him late. I'll say Beterbiev stops him in... I'll say he stops him in the 9th or 10th round. If I got to pick one, I'll pick 10. But the reason I think this is a really interesting fight, aside from the fact that I like Joe Smith, usually when you have a scenario where you got somebody like Joe Smith, right, where, again, I'm not trying to knock Joe Smith, but when we talk about, athletic talent and skills and boxing skills and shit like that, Joe Smith is limited to a certain extent. When you have guys like this, and this isn't all the time, I'm just speaking, the general consensus of what usually happens. When you have guys like this that get in the ring and it's, who's going to win? Is this guy going to be able to pose his heart and his strength and whatever on this guy? Or is this guy going to be able to use his feet and his jab and stay away and outbox the shit out of this guy? That's not really the scenario here. Joe Smith is a big puncher, but and a strong dude and a tough dude, but so is Beterbiev, right? I think that when you look at the boxing skills, yeah, I probably favor Beterbiev. I think that Beterbiev probably has a deeper toolbox, maybe is what I should say, when it comes to the things that they're capable of really, really doing well. I think that Beterbiev probably has a better toolbox than Joe Smith Jr. does. But that being said, in no way, shape, or form do I think that Beterbiev is coming into this fight and is going to try to, dance around and tiptoe around Joe Smith and try not to get touched the whole fight. I just don't think that that's the type of fighter that Beterbiev is. Again, I've never sat down and watched one of his full fights, but I've seen plenty of highlights from a lot of his fights. So, I watched highlights from the Marcus Brown fight. I've watched highlights from a bunch of Beterbiev fights. Again, that doesn't give me a very, very well-rounded understanding of what this guy does every second of the fight. So again, take this prediction with a grain of salt. I'm definitely getting much, much more back into boxing now that my girls are a little bit older and will sit there and watch it with me and stuff like that. They always showed interest in it even when they were like really, really little, but they just didn't have the attention span to actually sit there and watch it. So it was very rare that I was really keeping up with live events in the way that I'm back to doing now. So, I'm happy that boxing is back full force. I'm happy that I'm able to, I'm never going to be back into it the way that I used to be into it. I'm not going to fucking drive. I live in the Poconos now. I'm not going to drive out to the fucking Bronx on, Wednesday, Thursday nights and shit and watch random amateur fights in gyms and shit like that, or go down to Gleason's in Brooklyn and watch some amateur fights in the gym and shit like that. I maybe when I get older I'll get back to doing shit like that, but I'm certainly not into it like that. But at this current moment anyway. But I'm definitely back into watching almost every live event, so I'll be a lot more on top of shit from here on out going forward, especially with the information that I have on each fighter and shit like that. But I just don't think Beterbiev is one of those guys that's going to go in there and try to, pot shot and outpoint Joe Smith Jr. and win a 10-2 or an 11-1 fight where nobody gets cut and he tries to avoid getting hit as much as possible. I think that Beterbiev's going to go in there, looking for the same outcome that Joe Smith is looking for. I think that both of these guys are going to try to put the hurt on the other guy. That being said, I think that doesn't mean Joe Smith is going to win. But I feel like, and I'm just saying this, from my personal experience, like, if I could still box now, which I can't, I would probably fight a lot different. I would probably be a lot more defensive, a lot more cautious, a lot more aware of what I'm doing. And, yeah, I would still have the power. I would still have my aggressiveness, but I feel like I would use it a lot smarter. I would pick my spots where I got very, very aggressive. I would pick my times where I needed to be aggressive the whole fight and stay on top of this guy, but not take punishment and stuff like that. So the point of me saying all this is that when I was fighting, not if I could fight again, but when I was fighting, that was my job, essentially, was to drag somebody into an ugly fight, because that was what gave me my best chance to win. And when I was in the Golden Gloves and I fought Deshaun Williams, it became apparent very quickly to me that, and this is fair, I didn't have a trainer, I wasn't sparring for the fight, I just went in there and fought because I just believed in my fighting skills and stuff like that. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way, and I definitely could have gotten a different fighter that would have gave me a better chance at winning. But, tall kid, probably 5'10", I'm 5'6", so he probably had 4 inches height on me, probably had at least 5 inches reach on me, so that's 9 inches combined right there. Kid had great footwork, great jab, and I don't want to say I couldn't get to him at all, because there were times that I closed the gap, probably not properly. I probably took some damage doing it, but, I was okay, and there were times that I did close the gap and get in there. But the main problem that killed me with him was his footwork and his ability to pivot and stuff. So anytime that I did close the gap and I did get in there, I had 1 second to do something, and this kid would spin and, push me and get right off. So if I could have got that kid, and there were times where he did start sitting down and trade with me a little bit, and I would hear his pops and his trainer yelling, don't get into a fight with him, use your jab, move, do this, and he listened well. So, shout out to Deshaun Williams too. Great fighter. I think he had a really solid amateur record, won a bunch of amateur tournaments and stuff like that. Tough kid. Gave me to work in that fight. But again, my point of saying all this is that had that been somebody, that would have been more willing, that I could have mentally got to, that they would have been more willing to stand there and trade with me. Again, that don't mean I'm going to win. Because I'm not saying that when Deshaun stood in the pocket with me that I was winning the fight. But what I am saying is that him standing in the pocket with me was giving me a better chance of winning the fight. So I think that the type of fighter that Beterbiev is going to give Joe Smith more of a chance to win this fight than maybe he might have against somebody that's a really good mover or with a really good jab and really good footwork and a really great defensive fighter. Again, I'm not saying that Beterbiev doesn't possess these skills. I'm just saying that Beterbiev is a killer. And I don't think that Beterbiev's game plan going into this fight is to not get touched by Joe Smith. I think that Beterbiev is going in there to seek and destroy. And I just think that that style gives Joe Smith a better chance. But like I said, at the end of the day, man, I think that Beterbiev is probably the better fighter, and I think that he's going to come out on top, and I think he stops Joe Smith Jr. late, around 9 or 10 rounds. But I think it's going to be an interesting fight for as long as it lasts. I think that even though Joe Smith might be down, I think that Joe Smith is going to be live in the fight up until, the latter half of the fight, the second half, championship rounds, things like that. I think maybe Beterbiev starts breaking him down and probably stops him late. But like I said, I haven't seen too much on Beterbiev, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But that's my prediction, man. Beterbiev in 9 or 10. Peace.